say. So I think that this is very important just to go over, and I believe this is actually on our website, but I will also send this presentation to Louisa if anybody wants to review these slides. Part of our core values too, in speaking towards parents, is that we have a great deal of communication and collaboration with families. We do focus on the young adults having independence and agency in their services with us. However, we know that it takes a village, and there are many people that are involved in a student's life and supporting them to achieve their goals and what fulfilling life looks like for them. So just quick facts about our program. We are a post-secondary transitional program, so we provide support services. We are not an accredited school. We work with any school that a student decides to attend, even if it's out of state. So fortunately, prior to the pandemic, due to the foresight of our founders, we had already been providing some virtual services through our Choices program, which I'll go over. So it was relatively easy, I would say, for us to put more of our programming up in a virtual setting. But I went on a little tangent there. We do provide support services to students who are at any school. So in part of our post-secondary transition program is working with young adults and their families based on their path that they want to pursue at this time. And if the path is unknown, we welcome that too. And we'll go over the various options that there are and meet the individual where they're at. And I should mention that we call our participants students, and I would think of it more as students of life as opposed to students specifically when it comes to academics. There is no requirement for a student to enter into our program and pursue academics. However, that is based on where we were founded in the academic field or arena, and then we expanded to provide more comprehensive services. So now we provide career and vocational support, as well as general independent living skills support, which I will go over in the next couple slides. So we are located in Evanston, Illinois, and we have 3 program formats. Our first one is one that we call our in-residence program. It allows for more oversight. We do have a resident advisor who lives in a community apartment building where most of our students reside and is available for any after-hours emergencies. However, we are different from programs that may be called residential treatment programs. We do have licensed clinical social workers and clinical support available to students. However, our programming and services is not specifically geared towards mental health support. I should mention that. Our Choices program is an a la carte type program. So it is in person, but we can provide it virtually or in a hybrid format. And this program allows young adults to pick and choose their desired services, to add some, down the line, and create their own schedule with us so that it works for where their life is at this time. For individuals who may be in a dorm setting and only want individualized tutoring and academic support, we can provide that in person or virtually, whatever works best for that student. We also will have individuals come into the Choices program who want to just try out the program because there isn't much of a contractual commitment for that program. And it also allows the young adult to explore what they might want to pursue in a more committed sense. So whether that's a vocational path or an academic path. Our social only program is to provide young adults in the community with social opportunities. So we provide social events as well as interest-based groups such as mindfulness, graphic novel group. We also have a healthy relationships group. So and as well as a fitness group that we are providing this fall and will continue to do so. We've also collaborated with Piven in Evanston to provide, it's been virtual thus far, but to provide virtual improv groups for our students. Our student size right now is about 25 to 35 people in total. So with the mix of in-residence, choices, and social, we do maintain a small size intentionally so that we're able to oversee the customized services that we are able to provide to young adults. So with a much larger student population, it can be harder to ensure that all of our services are individualized and really focus or are person-centered. So the smaller size of a student body is really beneficial in that regard. And on average, there is a staff to student ratio of 1 staff to 5 students. And at times that can vary, and it could be 1 to 4 or at the most 1 to 6. But I would say on average, it's 1 staff member to 5 students. Our student population is fairly broad because we customize everything for our students on average. And I would say they're aged 18 and older. Currently, our student population is between the ages of 19 and 33. There's no high school diploma required to join our program. So some students may choose to not accept their diploma from high school and come into our choices program or in residence and pursue, additional or explore additional supports that we offer while also maintaining the services that they're receiving at their high school. Also, you're not required to be pursuing academics, as I mentioned earlier. And the one requirement that we have for students coming into our program is just the slightest bit of motivation. If there's no internal motivation for the student to step forward in some capacity or to work with an individual staff member, then the outcomes may not be what is desired, and it can be really hard to engage the student. And that's usually the case across the board in any program. So the diagnoses of our students include, and I should say sometimes it's a mix of these. So they include autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, a variety of anxiety disorders, depression that's more mild to moderate, cerebral palsy, executive function challenges, specific learning disabilities, as well as sensory processing challenges. So expressive language disorder, both receptive and expressive, auditory processing, as well as what may be described as slower processing. So that is our student population in a nutshell. The services we offer are, and again, customized to fit the strengths and the goals of individuals, so all person-centered. We offer academic advising and tutoring. All tutoring is individualized, and the students work with the same tutor in that class throughout the semester. And oftentimes it will continue for the entire year. We also offer executive function coaching in an individualized and group setting. We provide independent living skills that includes cleaning, cooking, advocacy, transportation. So anything that can really fit under that large umbrella of independent living skills. We also provide financial literacy, which often our in-residence students use most often. And it helps to provide that real life experience with staying on a budget, being able to visually see where money is spent, and also incorporating savings. We also provide career and vocational skills and support. We don't place students in jobs, but we do work with organizations in the community that place individuals in jobs. We've worked with the Department of Rehabilitative Services as well, and our skill development and supports involve anywhere from exploring interests to find a vocational path, all the way to problem solving and working through issues that an individual may see on the job. We do provide social skills in a individualized setting. And then at our center and in our social events, there are these natural opportunities that come up to implement and practice these social skills with staff and peers. We have daily social events and then our interest-based groups that I spoke about a little earlier. So the staff and specialized supports, I know this slide is a little overwhelming and has a lot on it, but I wanted to make sure that I captured as much as I could here. So again, our big takeaway is always that we customize all of our services. Every student is different, so we meet the individual where they're at and go from there. The only services that aren't individualized are, of course, the social events, the interest-based groups, and then we also have executive function group, which is separate from the individual session. I mentioned the staff to student ratio. So between 1 staff to 5 students, at most, it's been 1 staff to 6 students. All employees that we hire are highly experienced, and the majority have master's degrees or have a bachelor's degree in related fields like psychology and sociology, as well as nonprofit management and social work. Service provision is conducted by our full-time employees. However, our tutor team does manage the individualized tutoring. However, the full-time staff are there to provide the academic advising support. The tutoring team is made up of professionals and a few graduate students. We do not have tutors that are that have just graduated from high school or that are, getting volunteer hours, let's say, for high school or college. So they're all college graduates. Some hold master's or doctorate degrees, and many of them currently are professionals who are in the workforce right now or recently retired. The tutors are assigned to the tutors assigned to the student remain with that student throughout the entire class for consistency and reliability. Tutoring does include the executive function skills development along with the content of the course. So the executive function coaching is incorporated into those sessions. Each student is assigned an advisor who is a full-time staff member, and that advisor is the main point of contact for the student and the family. So there is frequent communication on a weekly basis, and if it's needed, it can be more than once per week. There are also other staff members on the students team, depending on the services that they are engaged in. However, that advisor will be there consistently for the student and the family. Our application process is pretty, it can also be customized in a sense. However, we did create cohorts, and that has now led to us creating deadlines for applications to be submitted. Our application process typically begins with either a phone call that we may receive or a submission from our Request More Info page on our website. And usually a communication from our intake person will come within 48 hours of submitting a request for more information. We then provide the family with information over the phone, or we set up an initial meeting to just go over that and find out more about the student. And then from there, we have a more formal interview process where we include the student and talk with the student about their goals and their motivation. And then from there, families can fill out the application. So we ask that applications themselves be sent in on these deadline dates, I should say, in order for us to have time to review them, to accept the student, and to begin the work that's needed in order to set them up for school, let's say, based on the semester that they might want to start school, or when they're ready to move into their apartment. So That's changed a little bit. We used to do rolling admissions, and I would say that these deadlines are really important for our in-residence applicants. However, for our choices student applicants, we can be a little bit more flexible depending on the intake number for that cohort. The necessary materials that can be provided in that second, more formal meeting with everybody in that student support system present. So transcripts are really helpful. A psychological or neuropsychological evaluation is incredibly helpful. Really the most recent one is the best. It doesn't need to be necessarily within 2 years. However, a psychological or neuropsychological evaluation within 4 years is ideal. And then the most recent 504 plan or IEP, if there is one. And then any additional support documentation that is from attendance at other programs, or if the student is willing, maybe therapy notes, just so that we're able to ensure that we can provide everything that the student is needing support in, and that we are the best fit. So just as much as families and students want to make sure that, you know, this program is right for them, we also want to make sure that this program is right for them. And we will be very honest. Integrity is one of our core values, so we're very transparent, and we always will tell families and the student what we are able to do and what may be outside of our wheelhouse. And if the majority of the supports that are needed are outside of our wheelhouse, we will not leave families empty-handed, and we will provide additional referrals if that's desired. So this is my contact information, as well as our intake and admissions information. So I always encourage people to email me. That's usually the best way to get in touch with me right now. And otherwise, my direct phone line is right there. And then if there are general questions or inquiries, as well as, you know, submitting an interest email, if you will, outside of our interest form, you can absolutely send that to the intake email address. I will mention that our fee structure and the cost of our program varies a bit depending on the individual's desired services. So there is a general fee, that there are fees that I can state generally. However, I want everybody to know that we do work with families on where their financial situation is, because we're truly here to provide the support that neurodiverse young adults are needing at this point. And so we want to be able to have our services be accessible to all families who have various situations. So our in-residence program, which is typically a year because a lease is generally 1 year long, the standard fee for that is $47,800 per year. However, if a student is not engaging in academics, or there isn't a plan to engage in academics, within the year, then our tuition goes down. The academic support is the most expensive service, so we don't want to overcharge families whose student may not be participating in those services of ours. Our a la carte fee structure, we bill monthly, and we work with families to, if there's like a set, flat rate that families want to spend for services in a month, we will work together to look at what a schedule could look like, what we can provide within that within that number. We also will work with families on being able to manage the financial aspects of this a little bit better and come up with a plan that will work best for the family and the student. Our prices right now for individual services, the majority of the services are $75 an hour, and those are the individualized services and the executive function group. Actually, I am going to go back a few slides here. So the executive function coaching through the individualized social skills sessions, those are all $75 an hour, and advising sessions are also $75 an hour. Our academic advising and tutoring support services are $115, so 115 per hour, as that involves a lot more background work that's done on behalf of the staff and working with the tutor. And then our social events and interest-based groups, those typically don't have a cost. Our art group is $25 per group for materials. And then our healthy relationships group, which is more structured and is led by expert staff, is $50 per group. All the other interest-based groups and social events have no charge. And I will say that our social only program has a charge of $75 per month. However, that's really it. So if an individual is participating in our Choices program, receiving, let's say, financial literacy, they don't need to pay that monthly rate for social events because they are participating in other services of ours. So that is kind of our fee structure here. I know there may be questions on that on an individual basis, and that's actually what we invite. And that's why there's usually no slide on cost, because it varies based on what the student needs and how we can work with the family on what's affordable. So that is the presentation in our organization and programming in a nutshell. So if I'm open to questions if there are any.
So thank you, Samantha. There is one question in the chat that says, can the 529 savings plan be used to pay for some of your services?
Excellent question. I should actually include that in the slides. So 529 ABLE accounts and funding from there can be utilized to pay for our services. If you have a 529 Bright Start, which is the college savings account, that funding is used mainly for accredited schools and institutions. However, I always encourage families to talk with either a financial advisor or their accountant to discuss whether some of those 529 Bright Start funds can be used to pay for our academic support and tutoring services. So one sentence answer, yes, we do accept 529 ABLE account funds.
Excellent, thank you.
Of course.
If anybody else has any other questions, you can drop them into the chat. Otherwise, as Samantha said, she could share her presentation with me and I can have it available. We also did record this presentation, so we will be sharing that hopefully in the next week or so. And otherwise, if there's no other questions, I will say thank you so much for your presentation. It was very informative and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here. So again, feel free to email me if you have any other questions. And Louisa, I will send over this presentation in a moment.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. And then for everyone who is staying, our next presenter will be joining us shortly from Mansfield Hall in, well, they have several locations, but he works in Madison, Wisconsin. So feel free to stay or come back as you desire. I'm going to turn off my camera for a moment.